Good day, good folks. My name is Carden Madzokere, and I'm the author and publisher of the Distinction Bound Student Textbooks. And welcome to 1.2 under inflation. Now, in this video, we have a slightly different scenario. It's not a table, it's not a graph, but it's an extract. So it says here, study the extract below and answer the questions that follow. Inflation targeting in South Africa. Okay, so South Africa has successfully pursued inflation targeting monetary policy since February 2000. This policy has ensured a stable and sustainable economy. Okay, then it is important to understand that the South African Reserve Bank, SARB, which is our our central bank, was created as an autonomous body, meaning it's independent from political influence. But this independent body has been mandated to keep inflation within the target range. Okay, so let me say keep inflation, and it's mandatory for them to do so. Okay, so it's something that they have to do and ensure. So to keep inflation within a target, to encourage long-term growth. Let me take the long-term growth in our South African economy. Right. With the inflation rate breaching the upper end of the range, which is 3 to 6%, so somewhere around 6% in 2014. A generally unpopular interest rate hike, okay, so this is important, interest rate hike, has placed the Reserve Bank's governor, which is Lesetja Hanyaho, and the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, which Lesetja heads, and it has 2 deputy governors and 4 other members. So all in all, this committee consists of 8 people. Under increased pressure, unions advocate the abandonment of inflation targets. That's a bit weird, right? Unions, they advocate for the abandonment of inflation targets for the sake of short-term job creation. Now, there's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. If you don't know this, visit the Phillips curve. On the Phillips curve, you'll see that when policymakers try to deal with inflation, that could hurt unemployment, and when they focus on unemployment, that could hurt inflation. So basically, unions, since they represent employees, they wouldn't care less what happens to inflation. So their main focus is on job creation. Okay, so with all this information we've gathered, let's have a look at the questions. So what is the target or the current inflation rate, inflation target range? Well, it's 3 to 6%. Okay. Then what is the main purpose of the South African inflation targeting policy? Well, obviously is to keep prices stable or to stabilize prices. And it's one of the macroeconomic objectives of the South African government, which is economic growth, full employment, exchange rate stability, price stability, and economic equity. So, like I said, one of them is in price stability. And price stability is just, in South African terms, ensuring that inflation is within 3 to 6%. So that will be the answer. Then how can lower interest rates, okay, so when interest rates are low, how can that benefit the South African economy in the short term? Well, low interest rates definitely would encourage consumption because it will encourage people to go for credit. So they'll go for credit and they start spending. So they apply for loans, they buy things on credit. Think about anything that people in South Africa are buying for with credit. It goes as far as clothing and so on. So when interest rates are low, people are encouraged to spend, and obviously that is a negative thing in terms of inflation, because when interest rates are low, there's going to be an increase in demand for goods and services, and that is going to cause inflation eventually. So in the short run, though, low interest rates stimulate economic activity. So anything along those lines would be a perfect response. Then the next one is, how successful, in your opinion, was the Reserve Bank in meeting its inflation target? Well, looking at the current trend, well, would say the Reserve Bank is well within their target, because inflation usually plays somewhere between 3 to 6%, somewhere around 4, somewhere around 5, well, somewhere there. So basically, I would say yes, the Reserve Bank has been successful, and it would be better if you have some figures to talk about, if you know any current inflation rate. Okay, so let's look at our responses. Number 1, what is the current inflation target range? That's 3 to 6%. Then what is the main purpose of the South Africa's inflation target policy? To ensure a stable and sustainable economy. Then how successful, in your opinion, was the South African Reserve Bank in meeting its target range? How, in your opinion, can the Reserve Bank reduce? Are these questions the same? Let me check something, because okay. 2, 4, 6. Okay. How can lower interest rates benefit a South African economy in the short term? Low interest rates, but that's not what I'm looking at here. Point 3, how successful? Something is wrong. But then in that case, if there's a mistake somewhere, then make use of the answers I gave, because I seem to see a glitch here. So here I said, how can a law? I explained even here. So I don't think there's any need for me to expand, because I gave you enough points nevertheless. Okay, so this has brought us to the end of this particular video. And like, subscribe, share, and thank you so much. God bless.